Armies are considered a crucial part of a country and its security. Countries take special initiatives to strengthen themselves militarily. If we attempt to compare the armies of the various nations to measure the countries with the strongest armies, it might probably not be possible to try to do so hypothetically. However, without resulting in a bloodbath, we will have a good idea about the military strengths of nations by taking under consideration the arsenal in their possession, advanced technologies implemented, training, power in several allies, size of the military, the budget allocated, etc. While it's a rather subjective issue, several organizations like Business Insider conduct their studies to rank the military powers. Let's take a glance at the highest 10 countries with strongest armies. 10. Japan. Japan was the land of samurais, and Japan was the #1 military unit in WW2. Interestingly, its piece at the top of WW2 prohibits it from having an offensive army. In response to its growing disputes with the ever-expanding China, Japan started military expansion, the first time in 40 years, placing a new base on outer islands. It increased its military spending, the first time in 11 years, to $49.1 billion, the world's sixth highest. It has over 247,000 active personnel and almost 60,000 in reserve. With 1,595 aircraft, it's the fifth largest air force. The army is additionally equipped with 131 warships. Besides, through its recent defense initiatives, it maintains a solid military presence in Asia. 9. South Korea. South Korea shares its border with North Korea, which has a particularly powerful army at its disposal, and hence, may be a constant threat to South Korea, but its offensive neighbor isn't its only problem. To meet the increasing armament of China and Japan, South Korea has been increasing its defense expenditure, which is now $34 billion. It maintains an outsized army of over 640,000 active personnel and a couple of 900,000 additional personnel within the reserve, alongside the sixth largest air force with 1,393 aircraft. Also has a small 166 ships. The country has about 15,000 land weapons, including rocket systems, also has 2,346 tanks. It routinely participates in military training with the U.S. 8. Turkey. It was perhaps the struggle of the opposite countries sharing borders with the regions where the Islamic State features a strong presence, the struggle in Syria or the probability of clashes with the Kurdish separatist organization, PKK, which made Turkey realize that it must prepare itself to face danger head-on, if and when it approaches, and choose to increase its investment in defense in 2015 by 10%. Its defense budget is at $18.18 billion. Its army size, including regular troops and reserves, is simply above 660,000. Turkey's air force has 1,000 aircraft. The military also claims to 16,000 land weapons. It has strong diplomatic ties with the U.S. and partakes in initiatives around the world. 7. Germany. Germany is one of the strongest economic forces within the world, but despite spending around $45 million per annum, the army's condition seems to possess deteriorated within the past few years. This is perhaps because the generation born and growing up within the 1950s to 60s were against war and its atrocities, and therefore the fear of being beaten by countries with strongest armies still discourages the people to hitch the military. It has only 183,000 active frontline personnel and 145,000 reservists, alongside 710 aircraft in total, and on-land armament of nearly 5,000 of varied kinds. In 2011, mandatory military service was eliminated to stop the country from being a militarized country. 6. France. France is another country to follow Germany's lead because, in 2013, it took the decision to effectively freeze its military spending and cut down on the defense jobs by 10%. To save money for technologically advanced equipment, its current military budget stands at $43 million, which is 1.9% of the country's GDP, much below the spending target as set by NATO. Over 220,000 regular force combines with reservists to make a force of about 500,000. It has just over 1,000 aircraft, along with 9,000 ground vehicles. Even if these don't make France a formidable army, its position within the EU and UN, a complete 290 nuclear weapons, and significant deployments strengthen the country. 5. The UK. The United Kingdom also features a plan of reducing the dimensions of the soldiers by 20% between 2010 and 2018, and apply smaller cuts to the Royal Navy and RAF. The defense budget of the United Kingdom currently stands at $54 billion. It has a daily force of only about 205,000, alongside a little air force of 908 aircraft and a good smaller navy of 66 ships. However, the military of the United Kingdom remains a strong one, with its superior training, equipment, and 160 nuclear weapons being the most strength. The Royal Navy is getting to put to service HMS Queen Elizabeth. It is a carrier, planned to hold 40 F-35B Joint Strike Fighters around the world. 4. India. India has put its massive population to use and built a military of a sizable 3.5 million, including 1.325 million active militaries. The huge size of the Indian military is one of the explanations why it's always remained among the countries with the best armies within the world. The man force of the military is complemented by almost 16,000 land vehicles, which include 3,500 tanks, also has 1,785 aircraft, alongside nuclear weapons. Its ballistic missiles can hit all of Pakistan or most of China. Its current defense budget stands at $46 billion, but it's expected to rise. It is the world's largest military goods importer. 3. China. China's defense budget officially stands at $126 billion, and, during a relentless drive to take a position massively in defense, there's likely to be a rise of the budget by 12.2%. It has a formidable size of the army with 2.285 million active frontline personnel, and an extra 2.3 million reservists, making it the world's largest land force. Alongside nearly 25,000 land vehicles, it has another 2,800 aircraft on its air force. China has about 300 nuclear weapons, alongside 180 different methods of deployment. China recently acquired sensitive information about the new F-35 and is noted for successfully stealing sensitive military technology. China is rightly among the highest 3 soldiers. 2. Russia. Russia's defense budget stands at $76.6 billion and is predicted to grow 44% more within the next 3 years. The military spending of the Kremlin has increased by a few thirds since 2008, especially since Putin took hold of Russia in 2000. The Russian army has shown substantial growth since the collapse of the Soviet Union 20 years ago. It has 766,000 active frontline personnel and almost 2.5 million on the reserve force, though the soldiers receive mediocre training. The man force is backed by 15,500 tanks, making Russia the most important tank force within the world, though it's aging, just like the other equipment. The country is the world's leader, with almost 8,500 active nuclear warheads. 1. The United States. The U.S. spends a whopping $612.5 billion on the military, quite the opposite 9 countries' budgets combined. It maintains a remarkably large army composed of over 1.4 million soldiers and an extra 800,000 reservists. To complement the active ground force comprising well-trained men and ladies in uniforms, its biggest advantage is that it's the planet leader in aircraft production. With a fleet of 19 aircraft carriers, while the carriers operated by the planet together sum up to 12. The U.S. implements cutting-edge technology just like the Navy's new railgun, and therefore the country also has 7,500 nuclear warheads at its disposal. No wonder it's #1 military unit since WW2. Thus, the defense budget, manpower, Air Force, Navy, etc. together help to work out the 4 most powerful military forces within the world. The countries with the strongest armies are the nations that are considered the most important threats to global security. And these are the nations that also become the heavyweights in global affairs. While the US has projected a formidable military unit for an extended time, Russia has risen well, and China, to a force to reckon with. These countries clinch the highest 3 positions, and therefore the strategies of other countries may gradually make them recognizable forces within the world during a not-so-distant future. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. See you all next time.